Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Thanks for joining us. We've got a great one lined up for you today. Just before we get into things, can you just let us know that you can hear us and you can see the screen okay? Just being told you can't see the screen. Let's try and fix that for you. Perfect, there we go. Yeah, let us know you can hear us okay. Let us know you're with us. Let us know where you're from. Love to hear everyone to say where you're joining us from today. And for everyone that's joining us right now, do me a favor, tweet us and the PRCA to let us know that you're on board. Always great to see that engagement, and we'll respond back to you and see maybe a few people that tweet us will give you some freebies in the post. Got some stickers and pens with your names on it, ready and waiting. So yeah, let's get started. So thanks for joining. Today we're going to be talking about the 6 steps to building a foolproof social media strategy, and I am delighted to have Harry from the PRCA. You can see his picture here, and obviously myself, Dan Aston. I'm the marketing manager here at Crowd Control HQ. Before we get into things, I'm just going to give 2 minutes just to introduce you to Crowd Control HQ if this is the first time that you're joining us. So Crowd Control HQ, we're a UK-based social media management software organisation, and we support many different organisations in the UK with their social media marketing and communications, social media customer services, social media compliance. And what makes us different is that we are fully UK-based, so our support team and services team are here where you are, so we're much more responsive, and you can get the hand-holding and help and the support you need to make social media really work for your organisation. So who does Crowd Control HQ work with? So we work with many different organisations, both public sector and private sector. So we probably work with some of your peers if you're a council or a healthcare organisation or housing. We've got some experiences and best practices that we can share. So please just get in touch if that's something that you'd be interested in finding more about. And that's it. I'm going to pass you over now to Harry for the good stuff and let Harry introduce himself. So just going to make sure Harry's got the control here for the presentation. And all being well with the magic of webinar software.
Oh,
Harry, let me know you've got that okay.
Magic. Hopefully, awesome. You should be seeing the screen sharing.
Harry, can you just click the button to share your screen? I think it's just our faces, as nice as they are to see. We need to see the slides as well.
Yeah, if you could send that again, because apparently it's gone. It's gone through.
Yeah.
Nice one.
There should be a little icon where you just click, and next to the icon where you can share your webcam, there should be a little icon just to share the slides. There we go. I can see your screen now.
Wonderful. And if you can see, you should be able to see.
Oh, you just PowerPoint? Need to. Can't see it. Just make sure that that's prominent on the screen.
All right. 1 second.
No worries.
Should be on the PowerPoint now.
Not yet.
Nope.
Yeah, we can just see your browser.
Okay, that's not fun, is it? Let's get the PowerPoint up there. For some reason, it's only sharing the browser and not the PowerPoint. But let me just quickly stop showing. Oh, there we go. 1 second. Switch it to. I see what it's doing. My apologies, everyone.
You can see
there we go.
No luck yet.
No luck yet.
Shall I?
1 second. How is that?
No, not yet. No luck, I'm afraid, Harry.
My apologies.
No worries. Let me see if I can do it. Harry, can you see what I'm sharing, and we can do it from my side?
I can indeed. Yeah, you sure?
Awesome. Yeah.
Wicked. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Well, hey guys, thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Dan, for that. Of course, it was going to go wrong. If it was going to happen, it was, wasn't it? So I'm here today to share some expertise and advice and walk you through 6 key steps on building a foolproof social media strategy for 2019 that hopefully will help you out. So without further ado, let me introduce myself a little bit. My name is Harry Gardner. I'm the Comms and Social Media Manager here at the PRCA. And for those of you who don't know what the PRCA are, we are essentially PR for the PR world. We train, accredit, and award all kinds of PR agencies across the UK and abroad. But it's not about us, it's about social. And personally, my favorite platform is Instagram. I don't know about you guys, but it'd be great to let you know in the chat and online. Let me know, tell me about it. And little fact about me, I'm too tall for doors. 6'7", most normal doors are too small for me. So that's all you need to know about me. But you're here to learn about social. So without further ado, let's get started. My first top tip is to review your reports. How was social for your brand in 2018? Just go on to the next one. Thank you, Dan. Nice one. Have a look at what campaigns resonated really well with your audience. Chances are it was video and gamified content, or maybe both. But what made them so impactful? Which platforms worked best with your audience? You've got to take advantage of whatever analytics platforms you use to better understand the impact of your content and the effect it has on your audience. And I say whatever platforms you use because everyone uses their own different platforms. Everyone's got their own favorite one and people prefer certain types. Personally, you've got the free platforms like Google Analytics and Social Platform Insights. And if you're not using Google Analytics, by the way, you're really missing a trick there because as much as important it is to see, how Facebook and Twitter are recording your audience, it's also really important to see how that audience are reacting with website and which platforms are driving them to your website. And that's what Google Analytics can be useful there. You've also got paid tools, obviously. You've got tons of paid tools, all different kinds of stuff that present all your data in a nice, very presentable dashboards that clients will absolutely love. And everyone's got a different favorite paid tool. I know Crowd Control has some analytics in it as well, which is great. So always good to have a look there. But no worries, little shout out. But 2019 is the year of data-driven reporting. Brands will begin to fully realize the impact that their work has and the importance of analytics, of testing and learning, and of audience insights in actually creating content. We've been there for a while and brands are starting to understand it, but I feel like 2019 is the real year that everyone's going to wake up to and realize how important data is and the data they have on their audiences. And not just that, but how to use it as well. So you've got to really focus on quality over quantity though. When you're looking at your reporting, it's all very well saying that, you've got something that had 1 million impressions. And whilst that's great, if your goals weren't to get impressions, if your goals were click-throughs, and this video you saw had 1,000 views, but absolutely no click-throughs, then it's not really meeting your goals. So it's time to, take stock of that and maybe adapt your goals to better meet your content or adapt your content to better meet your goals. I'd personally recommend the latter because obviously it's important to make sure that your goals are steadfast and your goals are actually achieving what your business wants to achieve. So with that in mind, my second top tip is to audit your assets and to make sure you know exactly what you have in stock. So now is a great opportunity to take stock of all that you have, all the content you've been putting out there and everything you've been producing. If you're anything like us at the PRCA, you have a wealth of assets like saved up and a wealth of content that's really, really good that you might not be using regularly. Are all your logos up to date on all your content? Is everything consistent? Are the key messages and branding across all your content you're putting out there the same? Because, chances are it changes. Brands are very fluid and brand marketing is fluid. And as social media marketers, we put out a lot of content on a regular basis. So it's important to see, everything's up to date and everything's on the same lines. And if it's not, what do you need to revise? You need to make sure everything's up to date and reviewing your key messages. Also, are there any assets you wish you shared more over the last year? Did you produce something and then kind of let it fall to the wayside a little bit and not give it the promotion it needed and the publication it needed? If so, put that to the forefront, keep that in bank, and make sure you used it. Which assets resonated particularly well or didn't as well is the most important part to look at. Obviously, you'll get this from your analytics, but it's important knowing what they are, what kinds of content they are, and what made them work or didn't make them work. I've produced pieces before where I was working with a travel client and we produced a gamified piece of content where you had to literally stop the mouse at certain aspects to catch a logo. Worked really well the first time. We tried to make it a little bit more complicated and get 3D with it and create 360 video. Did not work because you overcomplicated the entire process and took out the ease of access, which is what social is all about, especially with everyone browsing their mobiles, obviously. It's about ease and speed of access. So have a look at what worked well, what didn't, take stock of that, and maybe run a little audit through your content and see, okay, these posts are brilliant, I'm going to do more of this next year or less of that. So now you know what your content does. How about your audience? step 3 of my point is analyze your audience. And obviously, everyone in the world has heard the phrase know your audience before. I mean, I know I can't see you guys, but put your hands up if you have heard the phrase know your audience. Now, keep your hands up if you actually are using proper social tracking on your website and using Google Analytics to track where they're visiting, or using social pixels to make sure you know exactly where they're coming from. Because whilst a lot of people keep their hands up there, I guarantee there are a few that have actually put their hands down. It's all very well saying know your audience. You have to know more about your audience than just the very top things. Knowing when your audience online isn't knowing who they are. It's important to use pixels and tracking to make sure, and even tracked links to make sure you know where they're coming from, how much time they're spending on, which platforms resonate particularly well with them. If you create a tracked link for each piece of content you put out, you can track exactly which piece is doing well, exactly which pieces aren't, especially with big campaigns. If you're putting out a campaign like a giant sale or something like that, it's perfect to use tracked links. Okay, round 1 of advertising is this, round 2 of advertising is that, and round 3 of advertising is this. You can then use tracked links to separate all of those ads and make sure you know exactly which ads are driving the most traffic. And if people are confused what I mean by tracked links, Google Analytics offers a URL tracking service where essentially you can put a nice little bit of code on the end of your URL and see exactly where it's coming through in Google Analytics. It's very, very easy to get. A Google URL builder, I think, is the easy one to search, and you'll be able to get instant access to it there, and it will do it all for you. So you just have to literally enter in the parameters you want. Also, it's really important to understand how you can better target your audience in paid advertising. Now, if you're using Facebook as a paid advertising platform, it's crazy if you're not using customer lookalike audiences. Lookalike audiences are great for finding potential new customers by targeting the people who are similar to your audience pool. It'll look at people who have similar interests, who are a bit like that, and just expand your audience pool a little bit further. And whilst that's all very well and done, it might get you a little bit further reach. It might not hit the people you want to. The best one to do is custom audiences, which is an audience pool built off people you already have information on. So chances are, if you collect data on, say, emails or contact information, you can use that data, enter it into Facebook, or even purchase information and build out ads targeted towards those people specifically. You can then build lookalike audiences from that, making sure you target people who buy the same kind of things or who are very, very similar to your exact audience. What it might also show you is that your audience aren't the people you thought they were, or they're not the people that you're meant to be targeting. In which case, it's time to revise what you know, take a look at maybe building out new audiences or targeting new people. So once you've had a look at your audience, it's time to look a bit further and look past the people and at the environment. My 4th top tip. Oh, sorry, this is the...
Sorry,
that's right. My bad.
The environment, yep.
My 4th top tip is to embrace your environment and understand what's going on in the world around you. Start at your competitors, start on a smaller scale, see what they're doing, run a social audit similar to the one you've done yours, by tagging the content they're putting out, flagging anything you see that's really cool, seeing what kind of impact it has and seeing how people react to it. If you've seen your competitor put out a post that people reacted awfully to, don't put out something similar. If they're in the same line of business as you, don't do it. Or maybe see how you can improve upon it. Maybe revise it and release something better. Also, it is really worth using social tools to save the kind of content you see. Facebook has a save post feature. Instagram has its collections feature. My Instagram collections is essentially just a bunch of ads because I really love seeing what content's being put out there. It's really sad if you're on it. It should be like nice pictures of travel and stuff like that, but it's not. It's like mostly just ads. I'm fully into it. Save those cool content, share them with your team, tell people. The best thing to do is communicate. If you share some cool piece of content you see with your designers or your in-house comms managers, they can then better create content around your needs. Also, obviously, there are tons of groups on Facebook and LinkedIn that are sharing cool content with each other regularly. I'm the member of a Canvas group. Do you remember Facebook Canvases? That really cool, instant web page within Facebook. These guys share the coolest looking stuff that's all created within the platform and doesn't have that much design work behind it. So it's really good to know and really good to get a taste of what's going on in the industry. Speaking of what's going on, you can also look at rising trends. Now, whilst it's not particularly important for us to stay on emerging tech, well, I don't know for me, but it might be for you guys to stay on emerging tech and all that, it is important to see which changes are being made within social channels and the updates that are happening, especially when it comes to, big new releases or giant changes within the way they do things. For example, Instagram have just released their walkie-talkie feature, which is essentially WhatsApp's voice messaging. Whilst that's not for businesses yet, it's really important for us to know that and understand how we might be able to use that in reaching our customers or better delivering customer service to people who are ringing up and asking for it as well. And finally, of course, looking wider than just the social platforms and your audience, because apparently there is more to it than that. It's time to look at the world around you and key dates that are happening. Look at key dates in 2019 to use as kickoff points for your content and for your campaigns you're doing. Think about what's happening next year, what's going to be going on, what the kind of political landscape will be as well in terms of actually, understanding what you should be talking about, how you should be saying it. We've got some pretty big events coming up next year. You've got like the Rugby World Cup, you've got Eurovision, you've got Brexit, which maybe not used as a content thing, but it's good to know, and it's good to know that's happening. You don't want to release a campaign on the day we're meant to be leaving the European Union. It won't go down very well. Or it might, you never know, it might save us. Please do. Let me know if you do it as well. Please tweet me and let me know how it goes on. But it's important to consider those key dates and understand where it falls and how your content will fall around it. Because, there are chances are something could be happening that will take all the gusto away from your campaigns.
Yeah, on that point, Harry, actually, it's super interesting. You talk about the key dates, and there are massive sort of national, or even global events like, sporting events like there's even the Cricket World Cup, Cricket
World Cup as well, and the FIFA Women's World Cup as well, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on. But then you've also got the other end of the scale where you've got like the quirky kind of fun events where it's like the same date every year. And you've got like, chocolate cake day. You can even celebrate that, or it's, I'm trying to think of another one. Yeah, popcorn day. You can work those into your content as well, because it just adds a little bit of fun and sometimes gives you the opportunity to show a bit of the personality of your organization and the team and the people behind the behind the brand, behind the website, behind the social accounts. That's one thing we actually try to do at Crowd Control HQ, is just to celebrate some of the fun or quirky events, every now and then, just to bring that element to it. And it works really well, actually. Just helps you also come up with some ideas and a bit of inspiration for content, so that you don't become a bit too predictable. You can kind of throw one or two things in there.
And it's good for hashtags as well. Obviously, it's good for understanding, what's going to be trending that day. If it's World Health Day, chances are it'll be trending. So you can understand, okay, we're going to build a bit of content on that. Use some hashtags around that.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, from our experience, like those kind of content, those kind of pieces of content, you can actually get more engagement around those than you do with your, your more sort of corporate messages and whatnot, like the campaigns. It's super interesting to test out. Try to see if it works for your organisation.
Yeah, embracing the environment on both a macro and a micro scale, definitely worthwhile.
Yeah.
Nice. And with that, once you know who your audience are and what's going on in the world around them, it's time to start planning your outputs. Yeah, if we're going to jump back a few here.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's all right. That was my bad entirely. So thinking about what you'll actually create, it's all well and good having all this theory and all this reporting and all this data, but it's understanding what you're going to do with it and how you're going to make sure it has the biggest impact. Think about what platforms you're going to be using and what channels you'll be using those on as well. For example, podcasting. It's been growing rapidly over the last 2 years. It's now bigger than ever. Is it an output worth exploring for your brand? Do you have the budget to sustain it? Is there anything that your brand can actually say that's different from everyone else is saying at the moment? Just because it is there doesn't mean you have to use it. If it could be beneficial to your brand, it's definitely a chance to jump on it. And it's never too late, unless you're Google Plus. Don't be jumping on Google Plus now, but it's never too late to jump on a technology if you've got something to say with it. And that's the important part. You shouldn't be just going on there for the sake of it. Don't waste budget on platforms that won't benefit you whatsoever. You'll understand what platforms benefit you because you'll know who your audience are. It comes full circle. Also, video is dominating the market absolutely at the moment. Instagram recently mentioned that time spent watching video is up 80% on their platform over here. That's insane. That's from nothing to everything all of a sudden. So are you using it? Are you creating video with your team? And people bulk at this as well because people think, it needs to be 4K, DSLR camera, really nice. It really doesn't. Vertical video is on the rise massively as well. I won't give a stat off the top of my head because I have no idea what the stat is, but I understand it's risen like over half the views now on the video are vertical for Facebook. So don't worry about just filming something on your phone, even if it's just holding it up there really quickly. Most phones now, iPhone 8 has a better camera than most digital cameras had 2 years ago on it now. Use that really quickly, go gonzo, film everything you see, put it out there really quick. and get something released. It's a great way to be reactive. It's a great way to give you a point on something. To camera pieces, a brilliant way to express your business's opinion on stuff. Great way to do interviews as well. I've done a couple of interviews already where it's literally just using the camera on them and then flicking the camera back to me really quickly, just to talk about that. Also, it's a really quick way to edit and release there and then, so you're literally very responsive. If you're not happy with that, and if you really want a bit more, there are third-party apps you can get, and there are third-party businesses you can go to if you don't have the in-house skills that are relatively affordable to absolutely edit stuff for you, get stuff ready to go quickly. There's a whole new market emerging now, which is like quick, like responsive editors, where essentially they'll get the turnaround within half an hour. You'll have an edited video back with you that looks pretty damn trailer quality almost, and it is amazing, and it is a fantastic way to do it. But understand, is video worthwhile for your brand? Again, if you're a brand that, I would say most brands could benefit from video, but if there's something that you just really think won't work well like that, what else could work well? Maybe it's long form content. Maybe your content that resonates best with your audiences is still long form thought pieces. Maybe you're a platform like Medium or Quartz or Wired, where it is literally these huge pieces of reporting and journalism, which is fantastic. In which case, focus more on that and see how you can use it. Just as I said, just because it's there doesn't mean you need to use it, but you should know what you're planning and what you're putting out, especially on which platforms and channels.
Just on that note about video, Harry, so one of our clients, I think working in the leisure space, they gave us some very interesting feedback that often the videos that they film in the gym, which are a bit more amateur, using a mobile phone rather than a professional camera, that content which is sort of less polished, slightly less professional, actually gets more engagement from their clients, the customers, than the really polished and maybe refined videos, because I think people in some context, people are looking for sort of authenticity with the content, and especially in videos, and that sort of strikes a chord with them more often than the super polished videos, which could be interpreted as looking like an advert or something like that.
Exactly that, yeah.
Which is really interesting. So just further to your point, you don't worry about if you are filming it on your phone, it's not a stumbling block.
Exactly.
Just getting started, I think, is the key with that.
Exactly that. You bring up a really good point there, actually, about authenticity. 2018 has been a massive year for influencers, because at the beginning of the year, everyone was trying to jump on that wagon, and everyone was being like, we need to use influencers, need to really focus on that as a leftover stalwart from 2017. Throughout the year, we've seen more and more people veer away from influencers due to the fact that it just feels inauthentic. They aren't resonating that well with their brands anymore. They've become brands in themselves, and in the sense, the market's so saturated because everyone and their cousin is now an influencer. I mean, I moved to London 3 years ago. I started a food blog instantly because I thought it was my way to fame. It isn't. There are 1,000 out there, and it's very hard to break through. If you have, congratulations. I'm still a little bitter. But if it's understanding who works well with your audience and what kind of content works well, and understanding how to resonate best with them, camera to pieces on the phone, filmed really, like Gonzo style, a little bit rough around the edges, but it is more authentic. As you said, if they're straight from the gym, they're actually there. They're actually doing things. People can see that, and they can resonate better with that. Resonates better with their audience than some very highly polished advert that is, as a very lovely person from Made in Chelsea who looks, incredibly unattainable, sitting there and advertising a weight she's never lifted. It's very much the fact of understanding exactly what resonates well by understanding how authentic your audience want you to be. So finally, my sixth and final point is to create the calendar. So it's the slightly unsexy part, but it's definitely the most worthwhile in the long run. Planning what platforms are going to lead your social media strategy, and which channels you'd like to maintain, and which you're going to do away with, and everything that's happening throughout the year is the most important thing to do now. The whole Benjamin Franklin quote of, a failure to plan is a plan to fail, or something along those lines. Seriously, the importance of knowing exactly what's coming up cannot be echoed enough. If no one's interacted with your Pinterest boards for ages, or no one's interacted with your YouTube channel, drop it and focus on other channels. Focus on the channels that are getting you the most impact, and focus on the platforms that are doing best for you, and describe where your content is going to go on them and when. build out a huge content calendar, which is, again, another little shout out, but it's something Carol Control will help you with. It's something you've got loads of tools for. If you want to go old school, build out an Excel, even if it's literally just notes in an Excel document that says, here's what's happening, here's when it is, here's what's going on in terms of campaigns that the business is running around me. Here's what we're going to be doing on social. And that is an important part as well. Social isn't a silo. If you're a social marketing manager for your team, or if you're a comms manager for your team, it's a team. The business is around you and it's doing other things. Make sure you know, if your business is planning a merger in 2019, make sure you know that's going on, because obviously it'll impact what you're doing out on social. So plan this calendar and have this Bible-esque calendar that is essentially everything you need to follow to the book. But even if it's great, be ready to adapt, because the world is fluid and it's crazy unpredictable at the moment. And if 2018 hasn't taught you anything, it's that anything can happen at the blink of an eye. So brands need to be as responsive as possible. So yeah, it's great having this set calendar and everything's set in stone. But if, God forbid, something horrible was to happen on a certain day that you had some very fun content coming out, you don't want that going out, and you don't want that impacting your brand in a negative way. Be ready to change. Check in every day. Make sure everyone on your team knows that's going to change as well. If you're, working with interns who are told to just post, what's going on, they just literally just take from the calendar each day and post what's going on. Make sure they know to be responsive. Make sure they know to check what's going on before they actually put anything out, because it's all very well and all very well and good having this, but it can lead to issues. Don't let your previously scheduled content cause a brand crisis. It's not worth it. It's definitely not worth it. But yeah, those are my 6 top tips. I hope they've been mildly helpful. I realize I talk incredibly fast, so do feel free to ask any questions in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer anything you put forward.
Amazing. Thanks, Harry. I think so much information in the 6 points. I think the 6 points, they work so well just to try and summarize everything into like a sense of order that you can actually follow. And I just think further to your last point about, building out your calendar, like it's super important, isn't it, to do those previous steps before you start building out your calendar and the content and picking your channels, because actually you need to know the sort of background and the research pieces before you can make those decisions. Exactly, so that's where the 6 steps, I think, makes a lot of sense to me, and I hope it does for everyone who's joining us today. It just helps put it into an organized structure that you could actually follow and that you could actually implement for your own organization.
Calendar is so important as well, because sharing that calendar with the team and the higher ups as well. It's always good, if your director knows what's going on social, they'll be a lot more happier than if they just don't know what's going on, they haven't got a regular thing. You can refer to it, share it with the entire team, print it out and put it on the wall if needs be. It's something good to really have there and use as a great signifier. Yeah.
Nice. So please, if you've got any questions for myself or for Harry, please just send them over now. We've got a few minutes to work through some of those, and I'm just going to have a quick look to see if we've got any coming in as we speak. So quick there. I thought, just going back to some of the content comments as well, Harry, like podcasting. I thought that was super interesting that you included that, because I think for many organizations or for many sort of comms and marketing folks and social folks, they might think of podcasting as not, maybe being like not part of the social sort of ecosystem, but actually when you think about the channels that you're using to distribute that content and how you're promoting it, and as a format itself, a bit like video, it does seem to have taken off over the last 12 months. I've certainly seen it taking off, and it's one of those things where if you can get started and you can just start to build a bit of a community around the podcast content, like you can go from 0 to 100 in no time. I think it's
exactly that.
Super interesting.
And it's video without the video. Essentially, it's just audio, which is fantastic. So it's much less expensive than video if you're looking at proper video. If you know what I mean? If you have a mic and a quiet room, albeit it'll be choppy and changey at first, you could literally sit down, and there are experts within your industry, there are experts within your business. Everyone who's in your business is an expert at what they do. Sit down with them, start talking to them, start understanding what's going on, branch out from there. I mean, I've been involved in a couple of podcast launches with a couple of different agencies, and it's really interesting to see from the ground up how it gets running. But once it does get running, it's so easy to get shared out there and so easy to start doing stuff. and creating content from as well. A podcast is usually about an hour to 45 minutes to an hour. You've got bits of content in there, chunks of content that are great to use further. You can stretch out the content from each podcast over, a month if needs be, if you want to, just releasing little snippets of it, little audio bites, making it really easy for people to access. It's a great way to share stuff. It's really good. Plus, it's accessible.
And it feeds into your actual social channels itself, like in terms of keeping them fresh with new content.
Exactly that. It
provides you with a ton of really valuable and relevant content, doesn't it? It's just super nice.
Exactly that.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, if anyone else got any other questions, please just send them over. So we've got one question here from Rebecca. What do you think about content creation for Instagram TV? That's a very good question. So Harry, back to your stat about, is it up 80%?
80%, yeah.
On Instagram, and I think Instagram TV has got to be responsible for a big chunk of that. And personally, what I quite like about it is you don't get the ad interruptions like you do on Facebook if you're watching videos. They haven't got to that point yet, from what I've seen. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've got any comments or thoughts on.
I love the ad comment there. It is only a matter of time before they start it, isn't it, though? But for now,
probably jinxed it for us all now. But
that's it. I think it's a really good platform. I think we're coming off the age now where YouTubers and stuff like that, they're their own celebrities, and that's YouTube is seen as a platform where it's very hard to break into, and it's video content on there is now very high quality and stuff like that because the YouTubers have all got the money for it. So smaller platform, well, I say smaller, it's bigger, but smaller video platforms like Instagram, platforms that you don't associate video with as much, breaking into that market, using Instagram TV to literally give people a platform, Gonzo style video, essentially. You literally give people an instant platform straight from their phone to broadcast to all their fans. It's a great way. And whilst, it's got a couple of stepping stones to get over, first of all, it's got to get over that hurdle of the fact that, does everyone want to use it? Is everyone using Instagram Live as much? Do they want to use the IGTV? I think once people start using it a bit more, it really will take off. And I think you're right. It has to be a factor into that video build up there as well, because it is a really good platform to use. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes in 2019 and how they improve upon it as well. Instagram's always been good with visuals. That's their thing. So understanding how they can do with video and how they implement like more editing tools into it maybe, or if they go the other way and just keep it as raw as possible, seeing what people do with that and seeing how they take that to the next level, I'm really excited to see. I think it's a big platform to watch, definitely IGTV. It should be a very interesting one.
Yeah, completely agree. But yeah, good comments. Got another question from Emma. Do you believe LinkedIn will become more of a platform of choice in 2019 for brands?
I would like to see that. I was having a great conversation with someone recently, actually. We just published a blog yesterday on our website. Actually, you can check it out, about why brands should be using LinkedIn in 2019. I am terrible for LinkedIn. I will put my hands up. I'll be the first to admit that I do not use it enough. I haven't updated it in a long while, which is terrible as a social media manager. But also, it's just because I don't see the benefits from it. However, for PRCA, we've started properly focusing on LinkedIn this year. We're actually updating it regularly with content. We've built groups out for our apprentices. We've built groups out for some of our regional groups and stuff like that we have. I've seen massive benefits. I think businesses, if using it properly, could see huge benefits from it, especially because their advertising's now finally realized that there's a human behind it and you can actually do it properly. Their advertising's become a lot easier to do, a lot less expensive to work around, and a lot more responsive in terms of actual reporting. It's if you haven't used LinkedIn advertising for a little while, and if you went to it a couple of years back and were like, this is terrible, I recommend going back to it and having a look at it, because it's really changed in the way it targets, and you can build out audiences that are in a really intuitive way now. It's a real good platform to start breaking into. I think hopefully now that LinkedIn has finally caught up with the 21st century in terms of they've got video on there for mobile, it's got it's actually starting to use GIFs and stuff like that. It may become a very interesting platform for brands to start using. It's still, in my mind, a primarily B2B platform. So it's great for recruitment, and it's great for brands to control who are talking to them. But in terms of actually reaching people, I think it's going to be interesting to watch what they do next in terms of reaching their audience, because I think there's going to be some really interesting things coming out there in terms of maybe long form content, in terms of the posting do, because I believe that businesses still can't post blog posts and stuff like that as well. So it'd be quite interesting to see if they ever look at doing that, and maybe doing like long form updates for businesses and stuff as well, which would be really interesting to see. But I think so. I think, fingers crossed.
Really good comments, and I would echo that. I think over the last 12 months, I think they've probably made some changes to one to the algorithm. So you actually have a better sense of community, or more of a community, like the ability to build a community, I think, is one of the things that's been improved recently on LinkedIn. So as an organization, I think that's quite nice, and the ability to like target content to specific audiences, different countries or whatever. That's a big improvement, and the ability, like for some of the content, improved. So you can publish videos as you mentioned, but again, not perhaps on the company pages. Maybe that's more personal pages. And then your point about ads, they've really made it easier to target the people that you want to reach with it when it comes to ads. So if you've got an ad strategy, or you've got budget for ads on LinkedIn, it can be really, really nice for recruitment, as well as more traditional ads, like trying to drive interest and engagement around your product or service, or your sites. But I think LinkedIn is definitely another thing for 2019. We're going to see a lot more activity around that from brands and from organizations.
Nice.
Quick one for you, Harry. We've got a question from Tanya. What is Gonzo?
Sorry. Okay, so Gonzo film style is just a very off-the-cuff film style. My apologies. Yeah, it's a very colloquial term. Just off-the-cuff film style. From the ground up, essentially, just very rough around the edges. Just literally jump on video on your phone. It's from the old Gonzo filming days of Channel 4 and old school reporting. Yeah, off the cuff, essentially. Very, very rough and ready.
Brilliant. Good response. So I've got a question from, actually I don't see the name for this one. So which software or apps do you recommend for analyze your audience? Very interesting one. So Harry, have you got any experiences? Are there some tools which specifically look at analyzing social media audiences?
Personally, I mentioned pixels briefly earlier.
Yes.
If you use tracking links and pixels and tracking from LinkedIn has its own tracking as well, tracking code. So does Facebook. You can put this code into your website, and essentially the own platforms, insights and analytics platforms. So LinkedIn Analytics, Facebook Insights will give you much better overview of your audience. It will show you, who the audience are that are visiting your website, where they're going from social, kind of give you a better demographic and better understanding of exactly who you're talking to. There is so much audience data in Facebook and in LinkedIn. It's insane. And I love getting a bit creepy with Facebook ads, because you can target like certain households who have just sent their kids off to college and stuff like that. And you can get really, really into the finite detail of targeting exactly what it was. I saw a great talk. I can't remember what his name was, but it was a guy from Facebook, and he was saying, using the ads platform, I can target a family at different points throughout the day and ensure they're talking about a certain brand at the dinner table. And I was like, that is absolutely terrifying, but also, very, very smart. So I would recommend having a little dig around, having a little play around in your own social networks, analytics platforms, and seeing, who you're talking to, what your audience are. Facebook has a great way of showing you exactly, kind of rough ideas of who everyone is. But if you install that pixel on your website, it can take it to the next level, and it can really show you exactly, what their traffic is, what their web activity is around it. It's worthwhile understanding exactly, who they are there. Also, obviously, Google Analytics. I mean, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. Google Analytics is still the best way to understand exactly who you're talking to. And although it's hiding a lot of audience data nowadays, and it's giving certain things that the people are paying the premium, you can still get a lot from the free tool. You can still see a lot and still understand a lot more about who you're actually talking to. I used to use YouGov Profiler, which is the YouGov, obviously the big census guys. They've now, again, hidden a lot of that behind a paywall. But if you can, and have the budget and resources, I'd recommend trying out their premium version, because it's fantastic for building out personas, which is what a lot of brands want. A lot of brands seem to be interested in at the moment. It'll give you a nice little sketch of the person you're looking at. It'll give you it'll say little facts about them. It'll tell you what they're watching on a Sunday afternoon, that kind of stuff. It's and what kind of celebrities work well with them. It's really worthwhile for an overview, a top level overview of who you're looking into, and what kind of things they might be into. But I like getting down to date with the data, and having a real look at Facebook Analytics, Google Analytics, seeing exactly what they're visiting, what pages resonate with them, and what content works well.
Interesting, yeah, but well said. And I think you mentioned LinkedIn as well, so that is another element for LinkedIn. If you can build up your presence there as an organization, as a brand, they actually do have some quite interesting insights into who your followers are and who's engaging with you, which you can then extrapolate to like build up those personas and build up your audience profile. So another question from Georgia. If you haven't got a lot of budget or even any, what do you recommend to do to grow a social audience organically?
Brilliant. First of all, talking about calendar and key dates. You mentioned earlier, Dan, about using micro dates like actual weekly, National Cupcake Day and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's always good to jump on these and use the hashtags, use the relevant stuff to actually start growing your audience there. If you really can't bother to have a look at what big influencers are doing, what hashtags they're using, there are apps and tools that you can use to essentially put a photo into it, and it will give you a series of hashtags that it recognizes from that, which is great. The best thing I'd recommend doing is when you post something like that, have a look at what other influencers or other people in your market are doing. Have a look at the hashtags they're using, click through to those hashtags and start liking and start interacting with people, actually engaging. I say liking, properly engaging with people on those platforms, using those hashtags as well, because there are communities around that, and there are, people if you're using a certain kind of hashtag, chances are you'll be using it a lot, and if it's a very specific one, you'll be using it, over a period of time. So build up an engagement with those audiences. It takes time. If you haven't got budget, it is going to take time and effort, because you can't just be posting one thing out a day with not much content on it and expecting everyone to start following you, unless you have an amazingly cute dog or a baby that loves doing tricks. You need to actually still post it, and also use other platforms to your advantage. We live in this lovely little social bubble where everyone's like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's great. But actually, Reddit is still a huge social platform, as is YouTube, even though obviously it reaches certain audiences. If you're in the tech sector, Hacker News, Product Hunt, pages that might not be obvious at first, but actually have huge communities who are interested in specific niches. I'm sure there are public affairs news for public affairs sites and for government websites who talk about, and communities who talk about that kind of thing. Interact with them. Connect with them on social, talk to them, actually interact with their posts, and post your content at places it might be relevant. If you're creating really cool visual content, make sure you're posting it to Imagear regularly. Make sure you're posting it to the Reddit photography threads regularly, because it might get high on there. Chances are 2% of the people who love it out of the 3,000 who love it might follow your account and actually see, okay, that's great, I'll follow them through and maybe see what they're doing on Instagram. But yeah, even if you're working with £20, you can still do ads on Facebook and Instagram. It might be worthwhile doing a quick ad, just understand where your audience are, or who you're actually talking to, who you're resonating with, and what content works particularly best. If you've got a message you really want to share, it's worth putting a little bit of money behind it. But obviously, in terms of building the audience, yeah, just time and understanding who the community is and where the audience actually are. Definitely.
Yeah, I think they're good points. And I think for me is once you understand your audience, who it is, who the actual individuals and the organizations you're trying to reach, is coming up with content that they're going to find interesting and relevant or entertaining or informative, and just figuring out how to get that in front of them. And also when you do get the chance to actually engage, so you're not just broadcasting out, pumping out content, actually engaging, always respond, especially if you're in the early stages of trying to build up a community. Always respond, even if people just comment to say, oh, thanks for sharing that that infographic, or that quote. Just respond to that, and then if they don't already like your page, invite them to like your page on the back of that. Even if they just like the post, you can actually reach out to them and say thanks for liking the post, and it just builds up an actual conversation, because it's social networking. It's networking, it's two-way conversation, building up engagement, rather than just broadcasting. But I think from my side, I would say the trick is to have something that's relevant and interesting and valuable to share. What is it that they're going to be interested in? How can you position your bit of content or information in a way that's actually going to grab their attention and give them something, because that gives them the reason then to actually follow you and interact with you and engage with you in an actual sort of online relationship, rather than just as a one-off interaction. I I would say.
And be honest with them as well. Don't offer freebies if you haven't got freebies to give. This is what I see on Instagram all the time, which is like small jewelry businesses being like, "We'd love to give you." They'll comment on like a watch. I like watches, so I wear a lot of watches. I got a lot of watch random spam accounts comment on it, being like, "Oh, we'd love to give you a watch." I'm like, "Oh, fantastic!" They get an interaction from me. They might even get a follow from me, and then I hear nothing, and I'm completely ghosted, and that brand is now burnt completely for me. But they've got the social metric they wanted to see. If you know what I mean, they've got a follower up that they can just go back and report and be like, look at this is great.
Yeah.
Don't go around being inauthentic with the people you're trying to build an audience with. It's not a great way to start anything off.
Yeah. Good comment. So I'm just going to check if we've got any other questions, but I think that was the last one, as we are. So unless there's any last few coming in. Guys, if you do have any more questions, either sort of like immediately after the webinar or tomorrow or the next week, you know, please get in touch with us. You can see the contact details here on the screen. You know, get in touch with Crowd Control HQ. Make sure you give Harry and also PRCA UK a like or a follow or a comment. We just really appreciate you, Harry, being able to spend the time with us today to come and share your steps. I think it was super interesting, and we crammed in actually a lot of valuable points and comments like within the a little over 30 minutes, but I think it's been worthwhile. Super helpful.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. All right, guys. So everyone that was joining us today, thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. As I said, get in touch if you need to, and really look forward to seeing you again on one of our upcoming webinars. Thanks a lot and have a good day.